There's something going on with the system. It's a little wacky. I was getting these
Hello,
crazy
we're
emails.
live on YouTube. Enough.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. And recording. You can start.
Okay. Good morning. This is the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals public review session for April 27th, 2021, 10 a.m. session. No public testimony during review session. The first item is appeals calendar, continued hearing items, item number 23, 2020 78 and 79A, 90 and 92 Elm Street, Staten Island.
Okay, we have confirmation from Department of Buildings that the permits were lawfully issued. We also have several proofs that the building was constructed by the time of the zoning district and text changes. And also a statement by the architect of the impact of the changes on the buildings if they were required to comply/conform today. And also a zoning analysis showing compliance with the then R32 district regulations. So I'm fine with this unless others have issues. Go ahead, Vice Chair Shonda.
I have no additional comments. I'm very satisfied. The zoning comparison chart was very clear and I'm ready to vote on it.
Okay, close, okay. Commissioner Arlen-Brown.
I have I have no additional comments. I found that everything they submitted was definitely satisfactory in finishing off meeting the findings. I'm ready as well.
Great. Commissioner Shetta.
Thank you, Chair. I have no additional comment. I'm satisfied with the application.
Great. Commissioner Shibata.
I found the submission satisfactory. I think they answered all our questions and I'm prepared to move forward on this.
Great. All right.
Zoning calendar, continued hearing items, item number 24, 2020 42 BZ 155 Girard Street, Brooklyn.
Okay. To establish the pre-61 existence of the rear yard obstruction, because that really goes deep into the rear yard requirement. It reduces the rear yard to 15 feet. The applicant provided aerial photos going back to the 1950s. And maybe it was because I'm tired when I'm reading this application, but my eyes could just not, I just can't. I don't know what I need. Maybe I need special glasses with like microscopic vision or something on them, but they were just fuzzy things. So, so one suggestion, because I understand that sometimes the Sanborn maps, I don't really understand this. They like skip years where they didn't manufacture a Sanborn map at the critical time. Like, I don't know why that isn't, that they sent all the Sanborn map providers out in 1960 to make sure that there were records before the 61 zoning resolution was issued, but they didn't. So it seems like there's no relevant Sanborn map. And so what I'd suggest is we add a note to the drawings and the resolution that states that the board has relied on the applicant's representation that this portion of the building, the portion that's in that rear yard, predates 1961 and is legal non-complying, and that the board defers to DOB to confirm this, and that the validity of the special permit is subject to DOB's confirmation of that fact. And just leave it to DOB and whatever it is they normally do to prove a legal non-complying condition, because I don't know what their standards are. Kind of back in the day, you had to provide floor plans. I don't know if that's what they require. So, but I do have to say the plans have been much improved and are clearer. On the first floor demolition plan, BSA 11.01, I'm a bit confused by the hatching. Maybe I'm misunderstanding which joists it's referring to, but it's hatching that seems to indicate joists being retained on the side where there is no existing wall to support them, but not on the other side where there is. If they could explain that. Maybe what they're talking about is the joists that are resting on the cellar walls. Maybe that's what it is. And so I'm just misunderstanding that. But again, I don't understand why you wouldn't keep the joists on the other side. But so anyway, and on the second floor, a portion of the perimeter wall is located on the interior of the building. That doesn't count. The rule is 50% of the existing perimeter walls must be retained on the perimeter of the building. So they need to either modify the design or recalculate based on that. That's the rule. We used to have examples of all the perimeter walls retained on the interior of the building, which meant it was a tear down, or not all, but many of the perimeter walls retained on the interior, which equaled a tear down. They also need to show compliance with the planting requirements of 23-451. We usually get a little diagram that shows that they've complied with that section. They need to do that. And then there's an area at the front of the building described on the drawings as, quote, proposed obstruction, which is sort of like a porch, double porch and a roof. I don't understand why it's considered an obstruction, because it has a complying front yard. And I see the architect raised his hand. This is a review session. And first, we're going to be talking about all the cases we're hearing this morning. And then we'll open it up to a public hearing where the architect can speak to this case, okay? So just be patient, we'll be there. Okay, let's, Commissioner, Vice Chair Shanda.
I really had no additional comments on this one.
Okay,
Thanks.
Commissioner Otley Brown.
I agree with you that those historical aerial photos were a challenge. And no matter how much I've tried to blow them up, it just got fuzzier and fuzzier. So I really couldn't tell anything from them. So I actually agree with your idea to include the information in the resolution to clue in DOB that this is really going to be on them.
Okay,
And I don't have any other comments.
okay, thank you. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I see that they responded to the submission. I did look at the aerial photos and the historic aerials they submitted in addition to the updated DOB objections and the revised plans, and I'm satisfied with the application.
Okay. And Commissioner Shabeta.
I agree with you, Chair. I have nothing else to add.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, baby. I can't play with it.
Yeah, do you want to mute? Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
that's okay. 25, item number 25, 2019-263BZ, 2122 Richmond Avenue, Staten Island.
Okay, we have updated acoustical studies that conclude the need for an 8-foot acoustical barrier along the residential lot lines for both speaker and mobile noise sources. The updated traffic and noise studies were based on data from another Starbucks drive-through. Landscaping was improved, and I want to say that it's in the acoustical studies I thought were well done. And I find it just interesting how different the results are from one study to the next. But of course, each thing is site specific, and they're also using a different acoustical barrier system than the textile over the chain link fence. And so it may be a more effective system. It seems to be cutting down much more of the sound transmission than the textile, which would make sense. So I think it makes sense, not that I'm an acoustical expert, but also the landscaping was improved. I know there were a lot of comments from commissioners and I tried to go through them, but I just want to make sure that commissioners' comments were addressed. So if you could comment on that. We do still have open DOT and DEP. And if I missed anything updated, Tracy, let me know.
No, there's nothing new. We transmitted the revised site plan and response to DOT in early April, and we sent the noise study to DEP as well.
Thank you. Okay, so Vice Chair Shanda.
Yeah, they actually at the hearing itself, my questions were responded to. So what they have responded to additionally has been more in response to the board's comments, and the design has been improved in terms of the comments we had raised, and especially with the turning movements within the site and accommodating that and providing more buffer along the eastern lot line, and extending the sound attenuation further along the eastern sight line. So all in all, I'm satisfied. I'm also looking to see DOT status review, and I guess once we have that, I would be ready to close on it.
Okay. Commissioner Brown?
My previous question was answered in the hearing, so I'm definitely satisfied with this application in its current format.
Okay. Commissioner Sheta?
I do have 2 points. One of them is a comment, which is on what basis the height of the fence was determined. It wasn't clear to me how exactly they determined the height of the acoustical fence. The other point is we're gonna need to get readings probably after the grant, like a year or so after the grant, after they finish the installation of the lighting system. We're gonna need to get meter readings for the luminous spread. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, so, when we talk about these things, doing it after, unless these were either short leashes, and I'm not sure that this case is a short leash type case because they don't have any history of, we usually give short leashes when there's a history of bad behavior, right? This is a brand new case. Tony, did you want to add something?
Well, in the case of Canal Street, which was an Appendix G filing, but we had asked for reports. I mean, it was a little more of a serious case where there was concern about flooding and everything. These are the floodgates. But
Right.
we asked them to provide a report like 6 months after the board
Right.
granted it, just to see, 6 months or 15 months after or something. We could do that. I mean,
I suppose. Okay.
yeah, I mean, they could
I'm-
submit a
I'm not-
report.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Shea.
I'm not saying delay the grant. I'm saying just grant, and during the operation, when they are done with the installation and everything's settled, they can just get us the report. And if there is something with it, we can bring them to a compliance. If nothing, they are good to go. I mean, to keep going.
Okay. Commissioner Shabeta.
I was satisfied with the application. The way these changes are made, I think they have a keen understanding of the neighborhood, and I think that I'm just waiting on our sister agency to provide us the information.
Okay, thanks.
One.
Yep.
New case, item number 26, 2019-32 BZ 801 Co-op City Boulevard, Bronx.
Okay. We approve of service of initial application to officials and of notice of hearing to officials and neighbors. The community board provided a letter asking that the applicant reappear to discuss the project with the community, as so much time has elapsed. It's been 2 years since they last heard it. This application was filed here in February of 2019 and received a dismissal warning letter in September of 2020. So it has been a long time, and there have been apparently changes to the project since the community saw it. So this is an application to reduce the required parking for an ambulatory care facility to be constructed on the zoning lot that contains an existing use group 3 nursing home and adult domiciliary care facility. I'm not sure if that's actually a known use group. So I think that's just a not-for-profit with sleeping accommodations, right? There appears to be an error on the zoning calculations on drawing Z001.01. There's 2 numbers used, 48,417 square feet and 48,644 square feet for the ambulatory care facility. That may be due to the confusion between growth versus net versus zoning floor area. That really needs to be cleaned up on the drawings, on the calculations. What we need to see is gross floor area that's applied for the parking study and zoning floor area for the parking calculations. Just 1 second. Oops, oh no. Uh-oh. Sorry. I hit a button and I lost my place. Parking calculations. Sorry. Calculations. Okay. So we need gross for the parking study and zoning floor area for the parking calculations. Sometimes we see the word net on drawings. There isn't in the review of an application for a zoning compliance, such thing as a net. It's either zoning or gross. The drawing, the zoning calculations on the drawing indicates that the entire 3rd floor is a roof and is therefore not floor area. So the first question I ask is rooftop parking permitted here as of right? I'm not persuaded. So the definition of rooftop parking is that it's on, that it's located on the roof of a basement, but it can't be on the roof of anything higher without a special permit. So it says in 3611, it says, except as otherwise provided in the special permits that are available for parking, no spaces shall be located on any roof which is immediately above a story other than a basement. So the argument would have to be that the 2nd floor is not a story, and otherwise rooftop parking is not permitted as of right on the roof of the 2nd floor. So that's the first question I have. And then the other part of it is they're claiming the 3rd floor doesn't count towards floor area. So I'm assuming they're thinking it's either a roof, which is what they say, or that the parking is below 23 feet above curb level and therefore isn't floor area. But approximately half of that level has a building above it, so therefore a floor above. And though the slab may be at 22 feet when you're looking at the section, the cars sit well above 23 feet. So the 3rd floor plan shows columns throughout, even in that area where it's supposed to be not roofed. So is that a mistake? Why are there columns even in the place that doesn't have a roof? So I would have to say that if they're arguing the 3rd floor isn't floor area, they need a ZRD1 from DOB. So the proposed parking facility will have 273 spaces. I'd like to know, how does the applicant, and this is a confusion that I always have in this section of the zoning resolution, how does the application respond to the prohibitions of 36-12 that limit group parking facilities to 150 spaces, and 36-13 that allows DOB to allow up to 50% more than that, or 225 spaces under certain conditions? That is in the permitted accessory parking section, as opposed to the required accessory parking section. But I never am clear whether the limitation on the number of spaces has to be waived by DOB or in some way. So I'd just like them to respond to that. The applicant claims that the 104 accessory parking spaces for the existing uses is in excess of the 81 required accessory parking spaces. When the buildings were constructed pursuant to a 1974 new building application and a 1986 alteration permit, I'd like to know what were the parking requirements at the time. And I actually have to say, I don't know what DOB's position is on whether existing required parking spaces must be maintained when you're modifying a building, altering a building, or adding a building to a zoning lot or something like that, right? So they're essentially arguing that we can use some of the 104 spaces that are on the site for our own purposes, because only 81 are required for the nursing home. And I don't know if DOB actually allows that kind of reduction if if 104 spaces were required at the time it was built. So that's again a ZRD1. Also, how were the parking criteria for the existing uses determined? A nursing home has a 1 space per 10 bed space requirement. And I'd like to know from what document was it concluded that there are 480 beds? It doesn't say it on the CO. So I don't understand where they got that number from. And also, how was the 1 space per 150 square feet determined for the adult daycare portion, which is the, yeah, I don't even know what it's based on. Is that considered ambulatory care? Is that where they got that number from? I just don't know, because they don't explain it, because they're not using zoning use group criteria when they describe these things. They give it the name of what it actually is, but I don't know in what use group that is. So, and if it's ambulatory care, then have they counted the cellar space, which is required under 3621 to be included, excluding the storage area? So I'd like to know how they came up with the number based on which occupancy, which use group. Also, is there agreement from the owners of the nursing home that their parking spaces are effectively reduced by 23 spaces? Because if they're relying on the 23 spaces that are really allocated to the nursing home, then potentially the people from the new facility could be parking in those 23 spaces. And in fact, that's the concept, right? The drawing that depicts the existing spaces to remain around the existing building is indicated as 100 spaces, not 81. And those spaces are arguably not accessible for those not using the nursing home building. There is a security gate. So I'm not actually understanding the reliance on those spaces for this new building. At least that is the way the zoning calculations depict the situation, that you would be relying on the spaces on the nursing home side, even though you can't get there because there's a security gate. However, the demand study indicates that the nursing home has a greater actual demand than the proposed project. So I'd like to understand, would the 49 excess cars that are allocated to the nursing home, that are attributed to the nursing home's actual needs, would those 49 excess cars be able to park in the proposed garage? And where did they park before if the lot only had 100 spaces? Were they parking in the lot where the new building is proposed? So I had a lot of questions about existing and proposed conditions. And I'm a bit confused about the intense demand of the existing nursing home and daycare. I'm not sure exactly what the use is, and the existing use versus the model demand of the proposed. So which use in the existing is responsible for so much demand? The nursing home or the ambulatory care? I keep switching. I'm not sure what that other use is. If it's ambulatory care, is that the one that's so responsible for 49 more cars of demand and then of parking spaces? And if it is ambulatory care, does that mean the analytical factors that were used for the proposed ambulatory care are inaccurate? I know they're based on DOT standards, which change all the time now. The number, I think, is 76 spaces, 76 trips per 1,000 square feet. It used to be 42 trips per 1,000 square feet. Then it was 200 and something. Yeah, it keeps going up and down, but it seems like you've got an on-site standard that you could rely on for the modeling. The new project uses the same curb cut and the same 24-foot 6-inch wide driveway for the new building as is used for the nursing home, which has a sidewalk. I'd just like to know whether there are issues about that, because it's all of those cars coming up the same driveway. Is that going to create congestion into the street system? I'd like to know that. Does the proposed building have a cellar? It's not shown as having a cellar, but maybe they've left that out. It's unusual not to have a cellar. at the first floor parking level, aren't the ADA spaces too far from the lobby and elevators? I think so. And I'd like to know, what is the safe route of access to the elevators for pedestrians at that first floor level, since it doesn't have attended parking, whereas the upper levels do? Also, what's the meaning of the double hatch lines on the plans? They need to provide a legend. All drawings should have legends. Also, where are the cars that will be attended dropped? How does a driver know where to go for which method of parking? So what's the signage system? How does that work? Is there a warning signal and light on the sidewalks about cars coming out of the parking garage and driveway? Also, what the number of they need to number on the drawing sequentially the spaces on the plans, because instead of saying 3 over here and 3 over there and 6 over here, it has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because otherwise we can't count the parking spaces. There's also letter designations at the spaces. What does that mean? And the parking study states that there is a new layout for the existing parking area. I don't know what they mean by that. The plan should clarify the differences. And those were my comments. Right. Those were my comments. Vice Chair Shonda.
Okay, I have similar comments. I also think we need there were some zoning threshold questions I had with regards to rooftop parking. In addition, you know, I don't know whether this existing long-term care facility has any state or city or federal funding requirements that would have required the parking. So we also need to know that. And and I think I agree with you that DOB also needs to determine how the space determination is coming. I mean, I think as I look at the zoning resolution, you know, it does say that you know, the philanthropic or non-profit institutions with sleeping accommodation, long-term care facilities, except that independent living dwelling units within a continuing care retirement community shall be subject to accessory parking space requirements of section 3630. And for the purpose of applying such requirements, dwelling units shall be defined as section 2802. So based on that, in a C41, 1 per 10 bed is said, but if it's a independent living dwelling unit, then you're looking at a different section. So we do need a clarification on that. So as you mentioned, based on the plan, it seems the ground floor is going to be self-parking and the second and third floor would be valet parking. I had similar questions with regards to where the drop-off would be. And the drop-off locations need to be indicated in the plan. Valet stations need to be indicated in the plan, where the vehicles will be picked up, where the waiting area for the customers will be. Stop signs at the exits from the proposed garage needs to be indicated. And there also should be an ADA parking, similar, the handicap parking spaces should be closer to the elevator and the lobby. And should provide an operational plan. It wasn't clear to me as to who would this facility be used by the occupants or visitors of existing long-term care nursing home residents, visitors, and such. I thought the findings that were provided were extremely inadequate. It was not responsive to the standard of findings that the board has been looking for. If they're having difficulty, they should be given an example to use that to write the findings. And the statement of fact was very, very bare bones. It does need to talk about the driveway, so-called macadam driveway, the width, how it operates, who maintains it. And it's good that the end of the macadam driveway is at a traffic light. So that does that does control the flow of vehicles going in and out of that facility onto the main Macoa Boulevard. So the parking analysis, to me, it was not very clear if it looked at, I mean, I know it looked at just the proposed, but it also needs to factor in the existing vehicular traffic that is going through the MEC dam and how much would it be able to contain it, and would there be an issue? It's 36 foot wide, so I think it should be okay. And the
curb cut is 36?
the street, that drive is 36 feet.
No, it's 20 something plus a sidewalk.
Oh, is it? Okay, so then I probably misread the drawings.
26 sidewalk.
Okay. So I think those were things that needs to be clarified before even we can go to the next thing of how much of parking should be taken from the existing the extended stay care facility, and how much of the ambulatory care should be used.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Ali Brown?
I also have questions about the operations of the parking facility. It took reading the parking study to realize it was a mix of self-park and attended parking, because as the vice chair says, it is a very low on details statement of facts and findings. The other question is about how will people access the attended parking upstairs? And in that case, I echo your comments about signage. How will they know to go to the attendance booth on the second floor if they want attended parking versus self-parking on the first floor? Are there reservoir spaces for the attended parking? If so, how many? How does it operate? At what point are the attendants taking the cars from people? Do the people then have safe pathways to get to elevators or stairs? Those things need to be fleshed out for me.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Shivetta. I'm sorry, Sheta. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you. It's confusing. I share the same comments as you, Chair, and the Vice Chair. The two points remaining are, number one, I need them to provide us with a proof or a reference for the parking demand parameters that they used in their parking study. I understand they are based on DOT, but like you said, DOT changes all the time, so we need to, I need to get like some sort of reference for that. The other thing is yes, the number of beds. I didn't see any like plans for the existing or any document that like confirms the number of beds. So if they can provide us with either an existing plan or I don't know what else could be provided, or maybe even an affidavit or something like that to make sure that they are using the right number. That's all.
Okay. I just want to say an affidavit for me wouldn't be okay. It's more like, you know, this is a state regulated facility. There's got to be some official document that says how many beds, right? Otherwise, meeting regulations. So, okay, thanks. Commissioner Shibata.
Thank you, Chair. I have similar comments to the ones that have been made by colleagues. The only thing I think I'd like to reiterate is that I believe they should go back to the CB, or the community board, and what I'd like to know when their intention to doing that is. I also would like an operational plan to on the parking and how it's going to work on a day-to-day with the attendant parking. I was confused by it. It wasn't mentioned in the statement of facts, and I think that needs to be expounded. I'm not going to repeat the threshold questions, but that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I want to add something. I think I don't know how it skipped me, but on the second floor plan and third floor, I mean, the way the columns are placed, I'm not even sure how the vehicles are going to make those turning movements to go up the ramp and down the ramp. So just very basic questions.
Yeah, it seems the drawings actually seem like this is kind of the idea of a parking garage drawings, because they threw columns in even where you don't have columns, right? If there's nothing to hold up, why do you have columns on those floors unless, I don't know, decorative, lighting? Don't know. So, okay. All right. Okay, Tony. Thank you, everyone. You're muted, Tony. That's why.
I realized that. This concludes the public review session for April 27, 2021. We will now commence with the public hearing for April 27, 2021, 10 a.m. session.
Okay, who are we waiting on?
Ron Rosati.
Did you say the case?
I did 20. Oh, I'm sorry. Holy crap. Appeals calendar, continued hearing items, item number 23, 2020 78 79A 9092 Elm Street, Staten Island. Thank you, Kurt. I've got a delay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Madam Chair, Ron Rosati representing the applicant. I don't believe there were any comments or issues. I would ask the hearing be closed and this item be scheduled for the soonest vote date. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we have anything. So let's open to the public.
So the item we are discussing is 2020 78 79A 90 and 92 Elm Street, Staten Island. If you wish to call in regarding this application, it is 646-558-8656. Zoom webinar ID number is 990-1355-8684. Passcode is 627212 should you need it. And you can press star, if you're calling in, *9 to raise your Zoom hand, raise your hand, and *6 to unmute yourself to speak. And if you're in the Zoom room, press Zoom hand.
Raise your Zoom hand if you're in the Zoom room.
If you're in the Zoom room.
We're just going to give it a little bit of time because there are no submission requirements here, and then we can close, assuming there's nobody. Okay, then. So I would like to, there's no conditions or anything. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to close.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Shetta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Okay, application is closed. We'll let you know of the hearing date, Ron.
Thank you.
Zoning calendar, thank you. Zoning calendar, continued hearing items, item number 24, 2020 42 BZ, 155 Gerard Street, Brooklyn.
Hi, Elise Fullader from Eric Palatnik PC. The architect is on with me. I see him there. So.
Yeah. I think the name's misspelled though. Okay, go ahead, Tony.
Oh, Demetrius, okay. Raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Elise Fullader from Eric Palatnik PC. We heard your comments, obviously, and we'll go through each of them. So first, you asked about the hatching on 11.01. Demetrio, would you like to explain your hatching?
That's a floor deck remain over the cellar. It's a first floor deck. It's sitting on the cellar walls.
I see. So, but why is it only on the right side and not on the left side?
Because they're better condition and because that extension was done on the right side to existing house on the left side. And because there's so much work, we realized it's way be easier to remain to the right. And I don't really have to modify that deck. I could remain existing, just make a new stair penetration, and that's all. On the left side, because so much work was done, it would be difficult to keep it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, next question was about the second floor portion of the outside wall on the inside. He said he could modify the home to put more of the outs.
We will increase number of walls on a lower level by 10 feet.
No, it has to be on the, it's on each floor, 50% on each floor.
It wasn't 50% of the entire existing home. It has to be.
No, it's 50% on each floor. That's what we've done.
Okay.
Because then you get this game with 2 sticks on the second floor, right? Which you could do. We've seen that used, so now that's why we changed a while ago to 50% on each floor.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that possible, Dimitro, or do you have a problem when you do that?
So you're gonna need to figure it out, and we don't need to figure it out in public. So just go and look at the drawings and figure out how to accomplish it. But we need, if we don't have a hard and fast rule, the rule gets whittled. We've experienced that too, so.
Okay, I'm just personally, I thought I was experiencing 50% of the whole home on the exterior.
No, so.
We remain whole cellar foundations on walls.
So we don't count the cellar. It's only the floors above grade. So the first and second floors, it's supposed to be 50% on each level. Otherwise, you look at it as a demolition of that level.
But then are we going for zoning review or of construction review? Because
We're
these,
going, sorry, so let me just, this is a BSA standard to determine whether the house can qualify for the special permit, and what the BSA has determined is an existing building, because we've seen real, say, abuse of this concept, and we're trying to make it something that's really hard and fast and clear. 50% each floor, that's how it's done. Okay. So you may not be able to figure it out right now, but I'm sure that you can figure it out given a little time.
We'll figure out. Okay.
Okay, so the planting we can easily show, not a problem. And the area in front of the building, he can fix the note on there. I don't think that is the intent. Do you want to explain it to me, Joe?
Well, it's traditional note, proposed obstruction. And actually it's permitted obstruction. So basically I will take that notes out since we are within our area, and it's permitted obstruction in open space.
Wait. It's not even oh, you mean an open space?
Yes, an open space.
So you're talking about not an obstruction in the front yard. You're talking about in terms of your total lot coverage.
Yeah, but it's not a lot coverage actually. I will just call it proposed porch and proposed balcony. That's all.
Well, but so this is the issue. If it's not a permitted obstruction in required open space, then what you're talking about is a different open space calculation, right?
No. It's permitted obstruction. Only enclose more than 50% areas requires like specific requirements. Since it's a balcony and a porch, they all the time permit obstruction on into open space. Only balcony cannot. We're doing no more than 50% on the second floor. That's why we have it. Actually, I have to look at that.
Yeah, you need.
We'll look into that and fix the note accordingly.
Right.
Yes.
So I thought you were talking about a proposed obstruction in the front yard, and since you will only have a 15-foot front yard, but if it's about open space, please make sure your porch has a roof, not exactly a clean old balcony, right? It's got a full roof. You're bringing the whole roof line forward there. I'm not sure that it's a permitted obstruction.
It's a permitted obstruction because only over 50% enclosure, and if my railing is more than 3 feet 8 high, then it may consider an enclosure. But
So I would, because you don't want to come back here for an amendment or a letter of substantial compliance or anything like that. You want to be sure. So in the interim, you should check with DOB that I'm not arguing about the balcony. I do see there are balcony regulations, but you're pulling the entire roof line out and supporting the roof with columns that are running all the way through to grade. So I don't know that that's what DOB had in mind, or let's say city planning and then DOB's interpretation had in mind that you extend a roof out. A roof is not a balcony. So
they're allowed to have, okay, it's permitted obstruction in required yards. Okay, so if it's not an obstruction, then it's permitted. I'm doing it all the time, and even right now I'm looking on the zoning. Balcony, okay.
Sorry, I was gonna just say,
Ms. Fullader, you really need to work that out carefully because I don't want them to
No
come back
problem.
because
And-
DOB disagrees, right?
as your board has suggested before, we can put a note too, like per DOB, you know,
Right.
make
Yes.
sure that DOB approves it.
Okay, so then our note will be that we're not granting more lot coverage than what it says on the lot coverage calculations if this turns out to be considered lot coverage, okay?
No problem.
So, all right. Okay, anything else?
No, don't think so.
What?
So that because the aerial photos were not sort of.
Oh, yeah, right.
So is there something else you want or?
I don't know what else we can do other
There's-
than note. So there's no Sanborn map from like 1959?
Honestly, we went to so many different companies. That was literally the only thing. We called a bunch of companies. We looked at Sanborn maps. Sanborn doesn't produce. This home was built in 1954. I mean, 1955, and the Sanborn maps are from 1954 and 1969. So if you either want to see 1954 or 1969, I can give it to you. But if you want 1960 or 1961,
Right.
this is all we could find. And we called a lot of companies.
That's so strange. And like Bromley or any of those other things you looked at?
We even hired a consultant to help us do that, and they paid additional money to help look for these maps.
Okay, so we are going to end up having that note.
No problem.
And then you'll have to make your representation to DOB to whatever it is they accept, because we
Understood.
can't do this analysis.
And unfortunately, this is all we could get because
Okay.
nobody decided to take a Sanborn map in 1960 or 1950.
Right, it's so strange. Not even, I don't even know what else. I don't know what other standards DOB is using to establish non-compliant conditions. You know, in the old days, they only would accept floor plans. So
We also went to DOB, and DOB had no records.
right, I don't know. So, well, that's your thing to deal with. Okay. 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 So let's go to the public. So, let's go to the public, and while we're waiting for the public, I'll just add some things.
Okay, the case that we're currently discussing is 2020 42BZ 155 Girard Street, Brooklyn. If you wish to call in, it is 646-558-8656. Passcode is 627-212. Zoom webinar ID number, 990-1355-8684. And when you call in, you should press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute to speak. If you're in the Zoom room already, please raise your Zoom hand to
Right.
speak.
Thank you. So I just would like you to add to the drawings then a note that that DOB to confirm the pre-existing condition of that rear yard portion that extends beyond the 30-foot rear yard line. And then also a note that says something to the effect that the lot coverage waiver does not include this porch area. Okay, DOB to verify permitted obstruction.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. I don't see anyone calling in, so how much time?
Demetrio, not a lot, right?
No, I could fix in 1-2 days. It's not a problem, yeah.
Okay, so as quickly as possible.
All right, thank you.
We can work overnight.
Don't work overnight. It won't help you. We only have so many hearings and room on the hearing schedule, so don't work overnight, okay? All right, thank you.
Call the next one.
Yeah.
2019-263 BZ, 2122 Richmond Avenue, Staten Island.
Elise Fullader again. I should have some people on this one. There's a Nathaniel. I don't know if he's
Yes, he's there.
there. Yeah, Stephen Gambino. Okay, I see everybody. And Nathaniel's the key because the only question I think was about acoustical. Okay, so we can swear in.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Mr.
So
Fletcher?
I do.
Mr.
think the only-
Gambino?
I'm sorry.
Are they going to speak?
I don't think so. There was only
Okay.
one question from Shetta, so.
Okay, go ahead.
Nathaniel, would you like to answer Shetta's question about the basis of the fence determined?
Yeah, so
Who's
the architect and our office considered the allowable fence height by zoning was up to 8 feet. I think we originally were considering a 6-foot high acoustical barrier. After analyzing line of sight from the mobile and stationary noise sources, it was determined that an 8-foot fence or acoustical barrier was required to block direct line of sight between any of the noise sources and the upper windows on the neighboring residences.
So you determined that the 8-foot would block line of sight to the second floor of the residences?
That's correct, all the way to the top edge of those windows.
Okay.
Can I share my screen?
Mhm.
Yeah, this is a portion of the diagram you submitted. And what I did is I just drew 2 rays, like one close to the top of the building and one close to the top of the fence. And you see they most likely cover the entire second floor. So that's why I asked actually about what was the criteria for determining the height of the fence. So don't you think that you need to extend that fence a little bit higher to make sure that you deflect the line of sight away from the entire second floor?
I'm sure that the 8-foot barrier is sufficient to block direct line of sight to the fence. I think we may just need to make sure that all of the schematic items in this sketch are scaled properly. So I can review that with Stonefield, but I'm quite sure based on our analysis that both mobile and stationary noise sources are the direct line of sight is blocked by an 8-foot barrier.
Okay, so
For the stationary and the mobile, they are more or less the same. The height of the board speaker is more or less similar to close to the height of the car, of the car engine or the car horn or even the car radio. They are more or less similar, about probably 3 feet, and it's not complicated. If just plug in the numbers. It's a trigonometry problem. And I did run
that's
that,
what I'm.
and I believe you're gonna need to increase the height of the fence. Anyway, you can take a look at it, and if you believe the opposite, please provide submission explaining that.
okay, because I'm not sure why the scale would make any difference. I agree. It's just geometry.
No, he's talking about the scale of the figure I'm sharing right now, but
No,
I did
Why
I
would,
did copy this from the PDF, and the PDF is a plot from the AutoCAD, and it should be scaled. If I do have time, I don't want to waste the board's time. If I do have time, I could run the number in like 5 minutes, but I don't want to do it on the fly.
So Commissioner
But
Shetta,
I presume that the
don't
figure,
interrupt. Go ahead.
I presume that the figure is to scale. And what I did is I just went from the menu board to the top of the fence, straight line, and then to the top of the floor. And you can see that this is beyond this point is unobstructed. Even I could have like made that line a little bit like lower to just hit at the beginning of the second floor. But I wanted to like be close to the window. And I believe the window is not like in the portion of the obstruction for the proposed fence when it's 8 feet. But if it's higher, I believe it should be okay.
And by the way, we do have cases where the fences are significantly higher and in these same kind of drive-throughs, and DOB's issued permits for them. So when it has to do with this kind of acoustical barrier, they're allowing that. So
The height of the barrier is mainly dependent on how far the house from the fence and how far is the fence from the menu board. So it varies from case to case, but based on the dimensions provided on this cross section, I believe they're gonna need a taller fence.
okay.
So our analysis was based on the actual distances. We did not use this schematic diagram for our analysis. So I think it's just making sure that this schematic analysis is consistent with our analysis based on the distances of the sources from the fence and then from the fence to the receivers.
If the distances in your analysis are different from the plans you provided, then you have something wrong. They should be consistent. Do you agree with me?
I agree with you, yes.
Okay, and the distances on the plans are the distance you're looking at right now, if the plans are correct, right?
Correct.
Then it's done deal. Check it out. If it works, prove it to us. If it doesn't, change the height.
Okay. Right. Okay. Anything else?
No,
No, I mean, and from Ms. Fullader. Anything else you want to?
No, unless there's anything else from your
No,
Commission.
and we still have open DOT and DEP. So, okay, so then that's the basic thing. But I was saying to Mr. Fletcher that I know that you were restricted by the 8-foot height that the architect believed is the maximum. It isn't, as it turns
Yeah.
out, DOB is allowing taller fences. So if the correction is necessary, there isn't a prohibition against making that correction. Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Okay.
All right, then let's go to the public.
The item we are currently am I still muted? No, okay.
No.
The item we are currently discussing is 2019-263 BZ, 2122 Richmond Avenue, Staten Island. If you wish to call in, it is 646-558-8656. Zoom webinar ID number is 990-1355-8684. Passcode should you need it is 627212. When you call in, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute to speak. If you are already in the Zoom room, please raise your Zoom hand.
Okay. So.
So I guess the question may be for Tracy, how long we submitted in early April, how long do you think DOT and DEP?
There was some delays at the noise review. So right now that promised date is the later date of May 25th.
Okay.
So that's the answer.
Okay, so
DOT is May 7th. I don't know if they'll have any more comments.
Right. How much time to, just to verify on the modeling of the wall height?
Unless Nathaniel disagrees with me, I think another month, which is what she just said, is more than enough time.
Okay,
Plenty.
all right then. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
New cases, item number 26, 2019-32 BZ, 801 Co-op City Boulevard, Bronx. The Bronx, sorry.
If you're in the waiting room, we don't recognize you. Please raise your Zoom hand. I see Todd.
Good morning, Todd Dale for the applicant.
Good morning. Is anyone with you?
No, not for this hearing.
Okay.
Okay, let me swear you in. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do so affirm.
Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Todd Dale for the applicant. I did listen to review session. The comments that were made by the board were very clear, and we'll be prepared to address them in our next submission. Before getting to any specific comments, just a couple of general notes. First, to confirm, I believe it was discussed briefly, the design of the building did change during the pendency of this application, which actually helped contribute to some of the delay. That actually was a significant floor area reduction, which actually minimized the request that's before the board down to the current 32 space request. I would just note that with respect to that design change, we're going to update the plans and all the information that was requested, but with respect to the special permit that's sought, based on the current floor area, I realize we have the roof issue to deal with, but based on the current floor area, the number of spaces that the special permit could theoretically allow would be 121 required spaces for the new building. So even if you took that 121 spaces and used 104 spaces for the existing building as shown on CO, that would only be the 225 spaces. So the 373 that are being provided do provide a significant excess over the bare minimum that would need to be required if the special permit were to be granted. That noted, we definitely want to make sure that the calculations are correct, but I just wanted to make that general statement that this is not a situation where we're trying to cut corners and get to the bare minimum, that there is a little bit of a buffer there that will allow some flexibility in design and in conjunction with the review. With respect to the comments that were made, we'll definitely expand the parking calculations. With respect to the existing building, the 81 that we presented was based on the current architect's review as to what they believed would be the accurate zoning confirmation. We're not quite sure during our initial research why 104 spaces was listed on the certificate of occupancy. We'll do some additional research, but the 81 spaces calculation, as I said, wasn't trying to cut corners. It was just in the intent of being accurate with respect to what we believe the proper calculations would be. But we'll review that in conjunction with the existing building. We'll reach out to that operator to see if there's documentation with respect to the beds. We'll clarify the uses and the zoning resolution categorization as far as what the parking requirement would be. We'll also confirm that if there is any cellar space that's used for a use group 4, that floor area is definitely included in any calculation. We'll also review the 3612 and 3613 issue that you brought up. With respect to the new building and the rooftop parking, you made it clear that the question there about the portion of the 3rd floor that extends beyond the building, whether it should be counted as floor area or not, and also whether a special permit would be required for that. We'll review that with the architect and, revise materials as needed. We'll definitely get more information with respect to the operational plan, the attended parking portion, the reservoir, signage, directing parties, what they need to do. We'll also review the ADA space location, provide a little bit more detail as far as the access from Co-op City Boulevard onto the private road that provides access to, the private drive that provides access to the existing building, the proposed building. And we'll also discuss, at the time, there was no specific tenant, but there may be a tenant in place at the time. We have a further hearing. We'll provide any information with respect to the existing nursing home and any agreement as far as use of the space. I heard the comments with respect to the parking study, notably Commissioner Shedda's comments about clarification as far as the standards used and DOT information. We'll go back to the consultant there and also reference them to this review session to provide clarification with respect to the study. And then there were just some, I would say, miscellaneous comments. We'll get clarification on the columns, the double hash lines, the letter designation on the plans, and review any space numbering on the plans. Those were the primary comments that I heard from review session. They're all clear, and we'll make sure that everybody reviews them accordingly.
Great summary, by the way. I don't understand anything. Yeah, Tony, go ahead.
Have you reset up the community board? I didn't.
Oh, yes, thank you. May 11th, we have another meeting scheduled with the community board that we will attend.
Okay, and then the other one, I think Vice Chair, I don't know, I know you said something about the beds, but Vice Chair mentioned if there was any funding or anything required on the existing. Do you need that documentation, Madam Chair, or something? I know he said something about the beds, but do you need?
I think it goes back to the basic threshold question of how the 104 parking spaces being derived at, if not from the zoning, is it from any of the funding requirements of the care facility? So that's really how it should be all packaged together.
Yes.
Right. And we'll definitely clarify that.
Right. And, and what I was saying is that you can know exactly how many beds because it's a state regulated facility. They have to, it's a public document, how many beds there are actually permitted in the location. I guess I have a question. It's like, why are you overcomplicating what it seems your zoning analysis? Why don't you just leave those 104 spaces alone? And if the nursing home reduced the spaces on their own, that's kind of their business, right? But why don't you just leave that alone and do the zoning calculation for your own site as if it were an independent zoning lot, and just provide what's required by the size of the building, and then ask for the applicable reduction in parking spaces? Like, it seems that by relying on those 23 spaces, you're adding lots of work to your job,
That's a very fair representation question. To be honest, I believe it's the intent of the project architect for this current building, just trying to be accurate and honest with the numbers. The simpler would have been to stick with the 104, as you note, but they were just trying to be fair and representative, with the calculations that should have been done with the existing building. So we'll just provide.
So I'd suggest that you'd say 81 spaces required as far as we can tell, 104 spaces provided, and then leave that alone, and then do the calculations on your own. That way we don't have to know how many beds there are. Who cares, right? Right? There's so many things you don't have to do that way.
Understood. So yeah, and as noted, as I said at the beginning, even if you had the 104 spaces listed there, and even if we count the roof area there as floor area, the total required parking spaces would still be significantly less than what we're proposing should the special permit be granted.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
We'll get some clarification, but as I said, because of the design change and actually the reduction in the size of the building during dependency, that's we acknowledge that there's additional information needed that we'll provide.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other things before we go to the public? No? Anybody? Okay, let's go to the public.
The application we are currently discussing is 2019 32BZ 801 Co-op City Boulevard, the Bronx. The Zoom webinar call-in number is 646-558-8656. The Zoom webinar ID number is 990-1355-8684. Passcode should you need it is 627212. And when you're calling in, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute to speak. And if you are in the Zoom room already, please raise your Zoom hand.
Okay, we actually had one person in the Zoom room. I don't know if that person is there for an application in the afternoon or wants to speak on this. If you want to speak on this application for parking garage and ambulatory care facility, please raise your Zoom hand. Otherwise, I'll ask Mr. Dale how much time he needs for this.
To be honest, the primary, I believe that we can deal with the parking issues, the parking calculations fairly quickly in the operational plan. I would say, I know the summer schedules, how's this? We can be flexible with the board. I believe we could submit within, let's say, 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, 4 weeks. Yeah, I'm not sure. As you know, the summer schedule's really packed in July. So not sure. Okay.
Can I also
as long
make
as
a
there's no-
suggestion?
Sorry, I was just going to say quickly, as long as there's no hearing or submission date on June 26th, because I won't be available.
Right. Not June 26th. I'm just
Okay.
writing that. I hope you're going somewhere good.
I hope so too.
Okay.
I just have one more request, and that is in the parking plan, if you could dot in the building that would be rising above the third floor, so that we have an idea of where the building is sitting in relation to the rooftop area.
So just to clarify, it would be the second and third floor plans to put a dashed line showing where the roof would be.
I think it's more the third floor, right?
Third floor.
Because second floor, you already have the whole roof. It's the third floor.
Right.
I will make that note to have a dashed line added to the third floor plan indicating the office building space above.
Yeah, I mean, should we be going down that special permit? We do need to know that.
Right. Well, we would need more information if we were going.
Of course, yes.
So
Yes.
we need to know about the impact on the nursing home and all that sort of stuff, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay, great.
So noted.
Okay, great. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay, so this concludes the public hearing for April 27, 2021, the 10 a.m. session. We will resume at 2 p.m. for the afternoon schedule.
Yay. Take lunch. Lunch, actual